Welcome to Revealed. New consumer data shows what's holding back your contact lens practice. Our program today is brought to you by the Contact Lens Institute. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dr. Rick Weisbarth. I'm a board member of the Contact Lens Institute and Vice President of Professional Affairs at Alcon. I'll be one of your hosts for this evening's program.
And good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Carissa Lee, Head of North American Professional Affairs at Johnson & Johnson Vision, and also a board member of the Contact Lens Institute. In addition to Alcon and Johnson & Johnson Vision, I'd also like to acknowledge the other members of our CLI board, Cooper Vision and Bausch & Lomb.
Many of our colleagues may not know who the Contact Lens Institute or CLI is. We are a U.S. industry association which represents interest of research-oriented manufacturers of soft contact lenses, lens care products, and services. Our activities are focused on healthy wear and care of contact lenses and their safe use, and encouraging growth of the contact lens industry. One of our goals is to help the eye care professional community address the needs, especially as patient attitudes and behaviors change as a result of the pandemic. As part of our work this year, we've named 14 visionaries who share CLI's outlook and will help us share ideas and practices to advance these causes. We are joined tonight by a couple of our visionaries, and I'll turn it over to Carissa to introduce them.
Thanks, Rick. It is my pleasure to first introduce Dr. Klaus Ito. He is the ocular disease and cornea and contact lens resident at the University of Virginia Department of Ophthalmology, where he treats a wide array of anterior segment conditions, including corneal ectasia, corneal scarring, and ocular surface disease with various types of contact lenses. Next is Dr. Essence Johnson, who is an HBCU-made residency-trained specialist in ocular disease and Chief Visionary Officer of the Black Eye Care Perspective. She graduated from the Pennsylvania College of Optometry at Salus University and serves as a mentor, preceptor, facilitator, and speaker, inspiring girls and women in every phase of education to visualize their goals and reach their potential. Next is Dr. Elise Kramer, who practices at Miami Contact Lens Institute, specializes in ocular surface disease and specialty contact lenses. She earned her doctorate from the Université de Montréal and completed her residency at the Miami VA Medical Center, including training at the Bascom Palmer Eye Institute. Lastly, Dr. Jennifer Lyerly practices at True Vision Eye Care in Raleigh, North Carolina, where she specializes in contact lenses and myopia management. She's a co-founder of Defocus Media, the optometry live stream and podcast platform, and author of Idolatry, an educational blog that focuses on patient communication. I'm looking forward to hearing from what you, the audience, and all these panel members think about the YouGov survey data and some of their tips and tricks that they use in their practices to support more patients. And I'll turn it back over to you, Rick.
Thanks, Carissa. Driving our webinar tonight is our See Tomorrow initiative. Our See Tomorrow initiative is designed to help the eye care community better understand their current and prospective patients and pinpointing opportunities for contact lens fitting and practice growth. Uncovering consumer sentiments specific to lifestyle changes that resulted from the pandemic and giving practitioners new ways to engage their patients. Response has been tremendous from coast to coast, and it's clear that you want to know more about what the patients who walk into your practice or those whom you want to walk into your practice are thinking, but may not be saying outright. So we're excited to continue this series, turning our attention to contact lens perceptions and beliefs that can make a difference in your patient and practice success, or that can hold you back from having that success.
As members of the eye care community, we all have a pretty good grasp on our patients' perceptions regarding contact lenses, but it's worthwhile to challenge our assumptions with data. In mid-March, working with global consumer research leader YouGov, we surveyed nearly 1,000 US adults who require vision correction about their beliefs and habits relating to contact lenses. In some cases, we asked questions to which the answers should have been obvious, but didn't necessarily turn out that way. And in other instances, we discovered that conversations we may all believe are taking place in the exam room are not, showing huge opportunities to boost your contact lens fits, patient satisfaction, and practice revenues with relatively modest adjustments. In many ways, what we found comes down to addressing both the uninformed, so people who know little about contact lenses, and the misinformed, people who hold false beliefs about contact lenses. There's also some really positive news in our findings about the doctor-patient relationship remaining vital. We have a wealth of data, much of which we're going to try to discuss tonight. But beyond the data itself, we want to share practical insights from our panelists on how to put that to use across your entire team. So Rick, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
We'll begin by looking at data relative to how consumers, including new and veteran contact lens wearers, do not have a good grasp of soft contact lenses and their understanding. So we're going to focus on educating the uninformed. There's a big missed opportunity when it comes to the contact lens marketplace. Eye care practitioners are missing the chance to talk about contact lens options with 2/3 or more of their patients. So with that in mind, what some of our data shows is it's time to begin talking. When asked about their last 2 most recent visits to their eye care practitioner, patients remembered the following contact lens topics being discussed. To replace reading glasses, 4% of the time is when patients remembered that. As a replacement for glasses, 8%. As an occasional alternative to glasses, 11%. And given that we've all worn masks for the last couple of years, to eliminate mask fogging, it was only mentioned or only remembered 6% of the time. When there was the opportunity to poll patients about new advancements in contact lenses, and I think we would all agree there's been a lot of development over the last couple of years, only 7% of patients recalled their practitioner talking to them about new advances in the contact lens field. So my first question for the panelists is, does this surprise anyone? Elise, do you want to start our discussion, please?
Yeah, I thought it was definitely a lot lower than I originally thought it would be. It kind of took me by surprise at the beginning. And maybe just because I talk about contact lenses all the time, I didn't realize that, maybe some patients don't remember what's being said in the exam room. And I think one of the things that we need to focus on is, how do we get patients to remember what we say? How much of what we say in an exam room is actually remembered by the patient? So obviously, I think we all do, and I hope we all do a good job at educating our patients, but how much do they actually take away from that? And so that got me thinking about, what can we do for patients to remember a little bit more about what we say? Do we have to increase what we're talking about, like the frequency of what we're talking about? Do we have to speak a little bit longer about it? Maybe give educational information, material that they can take home. So how do we do that? And I think that's the gap there.
I think
Very
the big
good.
takeaway, at least for me, was I just like you, I have to make it a point to mention it to every single person. And that is a constant battle. You get in the thick of seeing your patients and you are answering their questions. Many of them now bring a laundry list of patient complaints and questions with them. And at the end of that, you still have to remember, are you interested in contact lenses? Is that ever something that you've considered? Because if you don't bring it up to the patient, there are a lot of patients that are interested that are waiting for you to mention it to them. They won't bring it up to you. But at the end of every day, I have to check myself. Some days I did a good job, some days I did a bad job. And it's on me to always remember to ask that additional question.
That's a great point, Jen. What role does staff play in educating patients about contact lenses? Klaus, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, being a resident, I'm my own staff at the moment. So all the educating comes through me and only me. But as I move into private practice after this, a lot of staff members will be the first point of contact for patients. And that's a good time to bring up contact lenses, whether it's on an intake form, just conversing with patients before they get into the exam room. Just in general, remembering things, it's all about repetition. So the more times I think that patients hear about contact lenses, the more that it'll stick. And then maybe they'll be able to recall all those times, or that statistic of remembering being told about contact lenses will go up.
Very good. Essence, how do you approach it in your practice with staff?
Yeah, I think it's very important for us to try as much as possible to offer all of the options to all of the patients all of the time, and using our staff as that entryway, whether it's in those initial intake conversations and kind of triaging the call, or just introducing our practice to our patients, or if it's in some of those follow-up calls. I think that would definitely help increase that number, where a lot of patients are either feeling that we're not mentioning it, or maybe we are not mentioning it often enough. If we took on the mentality of trying to remember to offer all of the options to all of the patients all of the time.
Another thing they can do is when people call in to make appointments, since staff a lot of the time are verifying insurance over the phone, they can say, oh, well, you also have contact lens exam benefits. Is that something that you want to use? And then that kind of gets the ball rolling. So I do think staff play a very key role in not only helping to schedule patients, because a little bit more time is needed when contact lens exams are there, but also to kind of, like I said, just get the conversation going about contact lenses and get that, plant the seed so that patients can actually bring it up also when they come in.
I think it's also really important, like, let's fit our staff in contact lenses. Let's fit our staff in our best glasses. Our staff is going to talk to patients about stuff that they had personal experiences with. And I have a staff member that wears scleral contact lenses for her dry eye. She tells people about her dry eye scleral contact lenses more than I probably want my patients to come to me asking for scleral contact lenses. But it is such a game changer when you have your staff empowered with the best technology, so that when a patient misses a complaint to me, they can say, oh, I wear such, such, such. And we can't brush off the importance of those like routine staff exams. I know it's a non-revenue appointment on your schedule, but they need a real eye exam with real technology discussed, just like any other patient that you have.
Other thoughts on approaching spectacle patients about contact lenses?
I think some people might see better with contact lenses. So like high myopes or high hyperopes. And they might have less, magnification of their eyes, or minification, just cosmetically speaking. So depending on what, their refraction is, especially if they have an isometropia, there's a lot of cases where they will see better technically with a contact lens. So I try to encourage, not only mention, but also encourage contact lenses in those cases. And I see a lot of those. So I think that, yes, glasses may be easier to find the results, but the patient overall visual acuity and visual quality might be better with contact lenses. So that's an important point, I think.
Do you find more referrals from spectacle patients or contact lens patients in your practice? Jen?
Well, we have a specialty contact lens practice, so we are a big referral source for contact lenses. And we found it's a great way to partner with ophthalmology colleagues. Every single day, I'm getting referrals from local ophthalmologists to fit a patient in RGPs or a scleral contact lens, or they have a large corneal scar. Let's see if we can do something to improve their vision above and beyond what I've been able to accomplish. So if you want to partner with ophthalmology going into specialty or contact lenses as a specialty is a surefire way that you're going to become a close friend with your ophthalmology colleagues. And I think a lot of people on this panel will agree with me. That's been their experience as well.
Mine too, but I think in terms of internal referrals, like from patient to patient, word of mouth, it's definitely the contact lenses. Like I've had people come in and say, oh my God, you changed my life with these lenses, because they were always in glasses or their glasses were fogging or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden you put them in contact lenses, and I feel like they're more likely to send their family members in because they've never imagined that they could or would have such a great experience with contact lenses. And so definitely I find that the contact lens, the results of the experience with contact lenses has been a lot more like referral generating for me.
Okay, great. Thanks, Elise. I'm going to move us to another area of consumers being uninformed, and that is when it comes to differentiation amongst the different types of contact lenses. There certainly is a lack of understanding that not all contact lenses are the same based on the data from the survey. About 1 in 2 adults do not understand how contact lenses can be different from one another. 44% of those surveyed aren't sure if all brands are essentially the same. 46% aren't sure if contact lenses use the same general design. 47% aren't sure if there is any harm in swapping prescribed lenses for another prescribed brand. And 57% aren't sure if all contact lenses are made from the same plastic or polymer. So I think we would all agree that this is a major source of patients not having the correct information. How do you address this topic with your patients relative to making sure that they understand that the lenses that you prescribe for them are specific for them?
I think this is a big key that, yes, it takes extra time, but when you grab a lens, you need to give the patient a why. It doesn't have to be a deep dive into the name of the contact lens material, but I do like to tell people, I chose this lens for you because of its thin tapered edges, because of its high breathability. You know, pick a part of the lens, something about the shape of their cornea, something about their prescription that you feel like, you know, and you've made a decision, you've grabbed a lens for a reason, pass that along to the patient. And I think this idea is kind of an old school philosophy, but I'll go to conferences, conversations, and doctors will say, you prescribe the contact lens. This is what the contact lens that they're getting. In today's world, our patients expect to be self-informed. They're expecting to know everything that the doctor knows. And you, doctor, prescribing the contact lens doesn't mean that much to them anymore. They want to know the why, and they feel like they have every right and empowerment to understand the why of the technology. And if we bypass that part, then of course they're going to be left assuming like, oh, they just grabbed whatever brand was cheapest for them or something of that nature. And I do think that doctors have contributed to this problem, one, by not communicating to the patient as an equal, but then also by kind of switching willy-nilly when someone comes in and not ever explaining to them about why you're changing their brands. And that confuses the patient that brands are interchangeable.
That's a really good point, Jen. Thank you. Other thoughts on not all contact lenses being the same and how you address it with patients?
I think we see it a lot too, when a patient may get fitted with a contact lens and maybe they go back home or talk with their friends and they may realize that they're not in the same brand. And sometimes they come back requesting that, but going back to Jim's point on connecting them on the why, connecting them on how everything is, we are customizing everyone's care and matching them specifically to a certain brand for a certain reason because of the way their eye may be shaped, because of how their tear film interacts with the lens itself. I do think that that's very important in them thinking that, okay, I am getting prescribed what is the best for me, and that may not necessarily be the same as what's best for my spouse or my kids or my other friends in my circle as well.
Thank you, Essence. Can someone tell us about a story of a patient who did switch lenses without permission and ran into a problem?
I have a patient that he left our office with a specific daily disposable lens, and he tried to order it online, but he didn't specify it was multifocal. And they sent him the lenses that were just, single vision daily disposable lenses. And he's like, I don't understand. I was seeing so well with these lenses when I left your office, and then I ordered them, online, and it wasn't the same. And I asked him to show me the box, and right away I saw it wasn't multifocal, and I explained to him, and right away he said, I have to order. He understood why it's important to order through the doctor, and why you can't just switch to something else randomly, or whatever the cheaper option on the website, because that's not the lens that was chosen for him. So that was just an example that came to my head, but it happened a couple weeks ago and it stuck with me. So
Dr. Kramer, the same thing happened at my practice not that long ago. Multifocal contact lens wearer, very happy with their vision, got their prescription, ordered from an online vendor who does not make multifocal contact lenses, and then came in thinking there was a major problem, had a stroke, something terrible going on. They can't see. Okay, and cannot read. We're checking, we can't figure out what's wrong because we don't know that there's been a change that's happened in the lens. So I'm like, well, let's just grab a fresh trial from the back, put these lenses on. Oh, she can read again. Then under the deeper conversation, come to find out, once we knew where she had purchased the lenses from, knowing they don't even make a multifocal lens, that answered that question. But it becomes very confusing to the patient if they didn't understand that up front. And then of course, unfortunately, with many of these online companies, they'll say they've sent a message to your doctor verifying the prescription. So in the patient's mind, I've approved this contact lens switch. And so luckily we're seeing some crackdown with the FTC on that, but it's left our patients in a very difficult spot where if they're not empowered and informed to know, like, I need a multifocal.
And it's hard for them to get a refund after. And obviously anyone would choose the $50 option over the $100 option. They're like, it's the same brand even, but I don't get why this one's so much more expensive. And so, I mean, it's not like they have to order directly from your office all the time, but I do think it's really important for them to understand what exactly they're being prescribed, so that wherever they do order from, it is exactly what was given to them and recommended.
Yeah, and I had a girl that was like, her last eye exam at UVA, of course I wasn't there 4 years ago, but her last eye exam was 4 years ago, was prescribed a daily lens, and then she decided to show up in 2022. And she's like a moderate hyperope, and she came in with like the direct to consumer brand. And she was starting to show signs of, Neo 360 that wasn't noted before on her last exam, and she hadn't had any other exams since. And had to have that conversation where you can't just switch to something for cost effectiveness. This was prescribed for you in 2018. You've gotten something that, I looked at the material and it was like the lowest DK, in a contact lens, and she was over wearing them. And, the lowest DK is, I think it's just to, I'm getting technical, but I think they calculate it with like a -3 lens at the thinnest part. So moderate hyperope, that oxygen transmission is even lower than what you might think. So yeah, it's just, wasn't communicated to her, but we had that conversation, and now she knows better.
Great, thank you. Those are fantastic stories, and I think we've all encountered patients like that. So thanks for sharing and reminding us how important it is to educate the patient about why we've prescribed a specific brand. Well, we've looked a lot at uninformed data. Let's now switch to misinformed patients and some of the data that the survey revealed. Carissa, can I turn it over to you, please?
Yes, thanks, Rick, and great conversation. That's a great segue into misinformation. So misinformation can affect consumer contact lens purchasing decisions, putting their eye health and vision at risk. We heard some great examples of that. I'm going to bucket these two misinformation areas into two categories. So the first is inadvertent switching, and then the second one is myths preventing wear. And I'm going to ask the panelists how they might address these in their practices. So the first one is around false beliefs. So false beliefs may lead to patient-initiated brand swaps, as approximately 1 in 5 adults definitively stated that contact lens brands are interchangeable. About 3 out of 5 adults may not check with their eye doctor before switching brands. So again, we heard a couple of these examples from our panelists already, but let me just ask you, given the patients that you've seen and the anecdotes that you've shared, are any of you surprised with these results from the survey?
Not really, because, I think contact lenses are already being shown to be a kind of like a minimal part of the exam conversation. So it's easy to understand that a lot of these things get missed. And, not just to mention, just don't go get anything you can find on the internet, stick with what was prescribed. And if it's not working for you, come back and we'll figure out something that works for you. So not surprising to me.
Also, a lot of the marketing that's done online from vendors online about contact lenses makes them seem like more of a cosmetic device, whereas we're pretty adamant and we're correct about it being a medical device. And so unfortunately the marketing that's out there that's seen on social media and Facebook or it's not showing that these are brand specific. And I think that's giving mixed messages with what we're saying to our patients.
I think what also scares me about this is, you're right, this is driven by vendors and merchandisers retailing contact lenses with a price for discussion, kind of like, this brand is this expensive. So you think like, oh, I'll buy that cheaper brand, right? It drives that conversation. But these people, they're also our legislators, right? And when these are people that are making decisions about the future of contact lenses, and 1 in 5 theoretically legislators would also believe contact lenses are completely interchangeable for sure. So we have a big job to do educating our patients, educating the people making the laws that govern our contact lenses. And this is a big challenge for us that we've got to grab hold of.
You're right. I think this is a light bulb for us with these, with the data from the survey that raise the awareness of, or maybe it gives us a little nudge, right, to explain, as Jen, as you were talking about before, the why behind why you're prescribing that. I also think it elevates what all of you do every single day, which is making those decisions based on, what the eye looks like clinically, based on their health history, et cetera, and their lifestyle. Great point. So I'm going to move on to that next topic around myths preventing wear. So urban legends can also be an issue, with about 1 in 2 adults who require vision correction believing myths that may prevent them from wearing contact lenses. So this includes 10% who stated that contact lenses are dangerous. 11% believe contact lenses can permanently stick to the eye, and 14% think contact lenses can get lost behind the eye. Have you guys heard any of these myths? And how have you myth busted these?
The loss behind the eye comes up way more often than you think, and mostly from kids. I'm presenting kids for the first time contact lens wear, and like there's a 13-year-old like, oh no, they'll fall behind my eye. I was like, where did you hear that from? You've never even been introduced to the concept of contact lenses before right now, but you already think this. So I'm not positive where that one specifically came from, that contact lenses get behind the eye, but that viral video or a news article or whatever about the woman who had 13 contact lenses under her eyelid, that has, people talk about that to this day as like, oh, the most common thing. They have no symptoms, they're in the exam chair and they're like, I think I may, like 5 years ago, maybe a contact lens got underneath my eyelid. Can you check and see if it's still there? I'm like, probably not, but okay.
I think, I think it's important to explain like the anatomy behind it to our patients, and explain that it's literally anatomically impossible for it to go behind the eye. It could definitely get under the eyelid, and you can just explain to them, like, if something bad happens, they can always come in and we can help them with it, but it definitely can get stuck behind the eye. Most likely will not get stuck to the eye, definitely not forever. Yeah, I just think it's about education and explaining to patients that, you're prescribing, again, going back to the why, you're prescribing this lens because it's safe for the patient to use. And you are going to follow up with them, and you're going to make sure that they're comfortable, and you'll walk them through the whole process. So kind of just reassuring them.
Yeah, I think that's important, at least that reassurance piece, and educating as well. But when we're talking about these myths, giving them some of those troubleshooting tips. It only takes one person to have, one adverse case, or to think they heard someone who is missing a contact lens behind their eye, and then that is what's getting passed on. But I think if we can teach them the things that you can do if you suspect that you have a contact lens stuck behind the eye, or you suspect that your contact lens is stuck, then that kind of helps dispel those myths. So hopefully when someone is passing along the myth, then they can also give the second part that says like, oh yeah, but when that happened to me, this is what I did, or this is what my optometrist or ophthalmologist suggested that I do when those situations may seem to arise.
Yeah, those are all great tips and tricks, and great segue to where patients might be getting their information from. So Rick, I'll turn this one over to you.
Thanks, Carissa. As you mentioned earlier, there was some good news about the doctor-patient relationship as revealed in the survey. Knowing where consumers are turning for information about contact lenses is crucial, and how they get the information and how it differs based on the age of the patient is something that the data shows. So the doctor-patient relationship is essential to healthy contact lens wear and a healthy contact lens practice. Strengthening our connection by being the source of information to our patients is paramount. 68% of adults requiring vision correction do turn to their eye doctor for contact lens information. On the flip side, though, about a third of patients are not turning to their eye care practitioner, and they're getting their information from other sources. 3 in 5, or 60% of adults requiring vision correction seek alternative information sources for contact lens wear information specifically, in addition to their eye doctor, and this includes friends and Dr. Google and other online sources of information. So it's really important that as eye care practitioners, we remain that critical source. Another fact that was disclosed is that adults age 18 to 34 use social media for contact lens wear information nearly 3 times more than all ages requiring vision correction. And I don't think that this comes as a surprise to anyone that our younger patients are turning to social media to get information, but social media, as we all know, can be a source of disinformation as well. So relative to this source of data, how do we see using the doctor-patient relationship for upgrading a current contact lens patient and having the discussion with them about some of the advances in contact lenses? As we talked about earlier, patients do not recall practitioners talking about advances in contact lenses. So how do we take that patient who says they're doing good or says they're doing fine, but you can tell that they're just not, overwhelmed with their contact lens experience? Thoughts on that particular topic, Elise?
Yeah, I think that, between when you do the refraction and when you go dilate a patient, that's the prime time to introduce talking about contact lenses. Of course, when you're discussing, the chief complaint and all of that, bring it up. But again, after you refract a patient, you could tell them, wow, you're a really good candidate for this type of lens. Obviously it's irrelevant to bring up a lens that they're not a candidate for. So speaking to them and saying, you could really benefit from using this lens. Like there's a daily disposable lens available that can now correct your vision or something like that, something new, something innovative that maybe they don't know about that's relevant to them. So they feel like you're really giving them all the options. And I think that's our job, is really to give options to our patients and educate them. And I think as long as we do that, we're doing everything we can to get our patients, aware of what's going on in the contact lens world. So just again, bringing up relative to their prescription, what's available and what would be they can benefit from.
Dr. Kramer, I love that timing. I think a lot of doctors make the mistake, and I did this for early in my career too. You try to bring up and elicit complaints before you start your exam. You come in, you're doing like a, let's get to know you, tell me about the things you're having problems with. The patient doesn't have any rapport with you yet. Why would they share any of that deeper information? They're more likely to say, they're fine, they're good, they just want to get their prescriptions. If you wait till you've done the refraction and then bring up where, oh, there might be some vision improvements. That's an easy segue. You do the slit lamp exam, you see dryness, you see papilla, you see allergic reaction, right? Oh, bring up technology that would be better for their corneal health. You've got to tie it into a finding that you can make better if you want to build the rapport and trust with the patient to understand on why you want to make an enhancement.
A good example is a patient that comes in, just an example off the top of my head, but a patient that comes in that's, let's say, plano in one eye, or like almost plano, and in the other eye they're minus, I don't know, 150, and they want to get glasses because they don't see well in one eye, so they think that's the solution. After you do the refraction, you can say, by the way, you can correct this just with one contact lens, and that can like blow them away, because they may not have wanted glasses in the first place, but they figured that was the only solution. So that's just an example of how you can really change someone's life just by introducing contact lenses.
Creating medical rapport, just even that personal rapport. If throughout our exam we figure out what they like to do, socially or for hobbies, what they do for a career, using those keys in their career or their lifestyle to also use that as opportunities to make lens suggestions for them too as well.
Mm-hmm. I think a good way to bring up new technology is just to tell the patient, mention what you're seeing with their lenses. A lot of contact lenses when you're doing the evaluation in an established wearer, they look okay, but a lot of the time, there's something that you can see on the lens that might be causing the patient issues that they're not bringing up. But if you kind of mention it, does the lens feel this way? Is it kind of hard to wear at the end of the day? Then that's an opportunity to bring up new advancements in contact lenses and get that conversation started, and maybe switch them out of a lens, continue, or switch up their cleaning routine, what have you.
What we're going to do next is I'm going to ask Carissa, is there any other data that came up in the survey that you found interesting?
Yeah, I mean, one area that I found really interesting was that the survey showed preference among the older population for contact lenses. So I wanted to ask the panel about this, because this is typically the age that we think of maybe our 55 plus patients dropping out of contact lenses. But perhaps this is an opportunity for us with this population. So what did you guys think about that data point?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of presbyopic patients, I'm sure they want to wear contact lenses, but then they don't want to wear contact lenses and have to throw readers on top, although some are perfectly okay with that. A lot of them don't know about multifocals because I feel like a lot of practitioners don't want to bring it up because it's a pretty complicated fit, or it can be. Sometimes it's really easy, sometimes it's not. So, I think it's a missed opportunity to talk to presbyopic patients about this. And, there are soft lenses. You no longer have to just be a spherical patient to do like a multifocal. They have toric lenses now. They have the hybrid lenses are great for multifocals. So yeah, that's how I feel about that.
Great. And we just showed a statistic there about 4% of the patients, only 4% of the patients remembered their doctors bringing up contact lenses to them in the last 2 office visits. And these were for those who were 55 and over. So Jen, do you see, is this an area of opportunity in your practice, or maybe that you've even had conversations with your colleagues about this?
I do think it's an area of opportunity, but I mean, I am a realist when it comes to contact lens performance. And I think the important takeaway here is even when contact lenses you don't think are a great option, it's probably worth bringing it up to your patient to explain why, so that they understand why they're not an ideal candidate. A Plano +2 add patient is not an ideal multifocal contact lens wearer. We can talk about monovision. I tell my patients, contact lenses have pros and cons. It's not going to be the same vision of you put on your readers for reading and you take off your readers and love your vision everywhere else. And when I explain those pros and cons, sometimes they'll decide, you know what, yeah, I'm really happy with my readers, but at least now they understand why. Sometimes they say, you know what, I might want to try that out still. I think I might really like some reduced dependency on my readers. And that's great. And even if they have a 50-50 shot of it, maybe half of those people do actually end up liking it. And I was able to make that successful for them. So I think even when we think they're maybe not good candidates, because we understand the technology and we know the limitations of it, it's probably worth bringing it up to your patient as an option and then explaining to them why.
I agree with that. I think it's all about setting the expectations. I think, presbyopia is difficult in all aspects of eye care, from cataract surgery to contact lenses, glasses. It's always a little bit more challenging than single vision. And I think we need to just set the right expectations. I don't promise perfect vision to my patients, but I know a lot of them would prefer to see maybe 75%, but not have to use glasses, then, have to depend on readers or whatever it is, especially the ones that like to go out. I live in Miami, so everyone's going out here all the time, but it's definitely relevant. People want to feel also younger. Glasses have that kind of, it gives the impression of like aging, I guess, to a lot of people, like, oh, I'm getting old, I need glasses. So I think that's where contact lenses could be a good thing to suggest as well. And another thing I want to mention is that people over the age of 40 not only lose their near vision, but they also lose quality of their tear film. And a lot of them think because their eyes get red at the end of the day, or because they have allergies, or because they use computers all day and then their eyes get dry, or they've been diagnosed with dry eye, that they just can't use contact lenses. And that is definitely another myth out there, because I think that contact lenses should and can be prescribed in people with dry eye. The dry eye has to be treated, and once the ocular surface is optimized, then there's no reason why a contact lens can't be worn with success.
I think Dr. Kramer, you and I, we're big situational prescribers. Like let's say you only want contact lenses for working out for 30 minutes a day, every day of the week. Fabulous. Let's do a contact lens for that. It may not be something you wear all day for every activity, but you can have very successful part-time wearers, but you got to have some in-depth conversations to get to that point of where would they like to wear contact lenses.
I have patients that wear brown lenses on the week and green lenses on Saturday. I mean, it's very situational always, but there's always a place for contacts if the patient wants.
Yeah, those are all great points. And I wanted to ask the panel too, if there was, as you looked at the data, was there anything else that stood out to you? Anything that may have been startling to you or interesting from the survey?
I have one. There was a question mark over the value and the expense of contact lenses. So 19% of the adult survey said that they don't wear contact lenses because they are too expensive. And it did not matter their household income. It was that same thought that lenses are expensive, whether they were in a low income or a high income household. So that means it's not the price, it's the perceived value of the lens. And the only way to drive the value of that lens is to talk about the technology and the science and talk about the situations where it can enhance a person's life. So we're often struggle with contact lenses because we think, oh, well, if the patient thinks it's expensive, they're not going to do it. But it's not truly that it's expensive, it's that they don't perceive a value in it. And that needs to reframe our thought process on that one.
Yeah, I'll ask a follow-up question. How do you convey the value of a contact lens to these patients then?
I will take them out of their monthly insurance covered lens and switch to like a premium lens on the market and show them how much better, how much more convenient. And yes, it's probably double or triple the price, but I feel like sometimes, and obviously this is demographically specific, but sometimes when something is more expensive, when something is more, I don't know, it feels like the quality is higher to patients. And I've found that doing that helps patients realize that, wow, this is so much better and worth the money. So I feel like if you show them the benefit of why, again, why we're prescribing something or why this would be better for them, then they might, the perception of value might increase.
I also find that patients seem to understand the value too if you yourself are the ones using that product, or how Jen mentioned before, fitting your staff in certain things. So I think those either in-house testimonials from yourself as the doctor or the staff, or the testimonials from other patients really help patients understand the value of a certain type of lens. Or sometimes people do want to do what is more popular. They want to do what is the latest technology. Sometimes they may even ask, like, hey, doctor, what is it that you personally wear, or what is it that you recommend? So I think that we can show them the value that way, and just our own examples, and kind of using that like bandwagon effect, that this is the latest and the greatest, and this is what a majority of our patients are using, or this is what I myself like to use because of these reasons. So again, connecting to that why as well.
I love that, Dr. Dawn. I think we can't miss the opportunity to upgrade our patients and at least let them experience something that is going to make their eyes better. And I think, this practice management side of things, people can agree or disagree on this one, but in my personal philosophy, I don't have a higher contact lens evaluation fee when I give somebody something new to try. I want them to want to come in asking me about new technology. I don't want to like, well, it costs more to try that, like that negates the whole conversation, in my opinion. So I love it when my patient comes in and it's been every single year, they're like, is there something new out? Is there something that would be even more comfortable? Is there something that would get me seeing even better? Absolutely. That's me driving value in not just the contact lens, but in my entire eye exam, in my opinion.
I also think that as soon as a patient's 40 or over and they have the need for an ad, when you refract them, you need to just fit them with a multifocal, or at least discuss options for their presbyopia. Because if you don't, it's going to be an issue. So I think that, patients come in, they have an ad, you refract them. I mean, I think you're doing half the service or half the job if you don't discuss, options for presbyopia. It could be glasses over their lenses, it could be eye drops, it could be, whatever it is, and definitely contact lenses, but it should absolutely be brought up when you find that ad upon refraction.
I like asking people about what they do, with their eyes, just like any eye doctor would do, just conversing with their patient. If they're in high school or something and they play sports, you can talk about the scenarios in which contact lenses are superior to glasses. Like if you play a contact sport like football, you don't want to be wearing glasses inside your helmet, and then that gets knocked around, you can't see. Or sometimes people, especially nowadays, just like to play video games, and being a high school boy at some point, I was sure into that. And wouldn't it be nice to not wear glasses when you're playing video games? Maybe you could wear some headsets with that too, so I feel like just digging into their life a little bit, not prying, but just kind of seeing how they use their eyes and showing them in which specific circumstances contacts may work for them. You can begin to express their value, and then they can kind of go along with it that way.
Yeah, those are all great points and tips. So I do want to wrap this up, and Rick, I'll hand it over to you because I do think we have some questions from the audience.
Thanks, Marissa. Yes, we do have a couple of questions. The first one is, can someone talk about the lifetime value of a contact lens patient versus a spectacle wearer? What does it mean to your practice in terms of the lifetime value? Said another way, is a contact lens patient more profitable over the lifetime as compared to a spectacle patient?
I think, if each person gets one exam, glasses might provide more profit at that exam, but one person could buy glasses for, $600 and not come back for 10 years until they feel like they're inadequate, versus a contact lens patient, might be significantly cheaper than that to get fit, but they have to come back every year for, a soft lens, or if they're in a specialty lens, the follow-up for that is even sooner. So I think there's a lot more value in a contact lens patient in the long run.
There have been studies done on this, and the average eyewear spectacle correction patient comes back every 24 months on average. The average contact lens wearing patient comes back every 18 months. So over a lifetime, that's obviously a significant value. And then there's a higher exam fee reimbursement, and your contact lens wearer, they may not buy glasses as frequently, but they're still going to be purchasing glasses along the way in addition to their contact lens purchases. So their revenue generated does also tend to be higher on average.
And if you're selling products, so, eye drops that are compatible with their contact lenses, solutions. And we talked about internal referrals at the beginning, them just being happy because you were finally able to fit them with contact lenses when they've tried them before, or they didn't know they could wear, whatever it is, and them just being kind of, it's more of a wow factor, I find, and them sending over their friends and family.
Great. Another question is, what do you recommend in terms of patient management for that patient who is a contact lens abuser? Maybe they're wearing their 2 weekly or monthly lenses longer than you prescribe. How do you deal with them?
I tell them when I was at Bascom Palmer, I saw people lose their vision and have to get corneal transplants because of contact lens overwear. And so that usually works pretty well to scare them. I try to scare them because honestly, an infection is something that you can't always treat, and or it doesn't always end up being treated properly, or it could scar, and that they can permanently lose their vision. So
yeah, being in a hospital, a lot of those patients are not doing so hot. A lot of them were contact lens abusers that got ulcers. So I'll show them pictures, say, if you want to see what happens when you abuse your contact lenses, like just look in the waiting room. But you can ask any one of those people. But yeah, pictures for me work a lot. Scaring them, I feel like, I don't want to go too hard on the scaring, but just letting them know that there are consequences. Like you can't just, keep up. If they already are into bad habits, they can't keep it up forever. And just explaining what goes on. And yeah, I think that seems to help.
Okay. Is there a role for daily disposables with that type of patient?
Yeah, I do think
until they wear their daily disposables for 2 weeks straight, that's where it gets bad. But yes, definitely. What were you going to say, Jen?
Yeah, I think we, as the doctor, right, like when you see there's a clinical problem that's putting your patient at significant risk. And I always just because someone comes in and says, I've had my contact lens in for 2 months, here's the big trick to this conversation. Do not say anything to them when you walk in. Don't bring that up. Don't mention anything. You do your normal exam. You're so happy to see them. Do the slit lamp. Don't talk about anything about the health of their eye until the patient has seen you evaluate the health of their eye. And then now they're listening. And I tell them what I'm seeing and what I'm finding. I act like I didn't even know that they told my tech they slipped in their contact lenses for the past 2 months in a row, and let them bring that to me after I tell them I'm seeing these XX issues. And, if you see a patient that needs to take a contact lens holiday, it's a conversation your patient does not want to hear. They are not going to be happy, but you have to stand by what you know is best for the patient and tell them, I cannot prescribe you contact lenses today. I'm happy to see you back in 6 months, and we'll see if the eye is looking healthier. And you're right, they might find another doctor, they might find another avenue, but at the end of the day, we have to do what's best for our patients if it's gone that far with that much neo. And I've only had a very few number of people that happened to, but guess what? When they took the holiday, their neo did regress, and we were able to get them back into contact lens wear. So I always tell my patients, if we do have to take a break from contact lenses, when your eye is healthy enough again, I'm here for you and I want you to wear contact lenses again. So they know I'm on their team. I'm here to help them make what they want happen, as long as we're taking care of the eyes is the utmost important thing to do.
And we talked about this of it, but I think maybe the growth factor kind of works too, when we kind of learn that analogy of like, treat your contact lenses as you would like a pair of underwear, and telling them that, you know, a healthier pair and a clean pair, a fresh pair is what's best. I think sometimes that visual, especially if we're talking to people that are kind of before they're in the worst case scenario, but using other worst case scenarios as examples, but then also telling them like, in the growth factor, that what is happening when you are overwearing those glasses or overwearing those contact lenses, and using that comparison of like, would you overwear a pair of underwear? I found a lot of good reactions, positive, that get people thinking. And then like anytime they want to sleep or do something, they're always remembering like, oh no, I'm not changing this pair. So I think that tactic is kind of very beneficial.
Great suggestions. Carissa, I'm going to turn it over to you to wrap up for us.
Thanks, Rick. Before you all go, we encourage you to visit seetomorrownow.com to see our data and insights firsthand, and spread the word among your teams and peers. We'd also love you to visit the easywayprogram.org to review and download CLI provided assets for healthy wear and care. So thanks again on behalf of Rick and myself to all of our visionaries and to all of you for tuning in. There are incredible opportunities ahead with contact lenses for your patients and your practice, and we hope these insights will help you see tomorrow. Thank you.